Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today I'm doing a video on Tactical Masters. This seems like a pretty promising deck build pack. I'm honestly really excited for it. Me personally, I have 3 separate decks that I love already, and all 3 of these archetypes have really good synergies with those decks and may just present the literal best ways to play. So today we're going over each individual archetype and talking about how we could end up playing them, whether it's pure, whether it's combining with another archetype, and so on and so forth. Obviously, I didn't hit everything here, so feel free. I only have a couple options really. So let me know in the comment section down below if there's any other things that you've seen synergy wise where you're like, oh, Valiants actually work with this pendulum archetype because of the way they work, or you know, Mr. Roon actually works with this other deck, and so on and so forth. Mr. Roon works with stuff, and Labyrinth and all that stuff. Everything works with other stuff, and it works out. Let me know in the comment section your thought for that. But yeah, anyway, as of right now, the only card we have yet to get revealed is the final Labyrinth card. It looks like it's going to be a monster. If I had to guess, I would look at Archfiend Glitch, one of their other new cards, and I would say it's probably this girl, whoever she is, because this is our Stratos, the level 4 girl, and she's one of, if not the best monster in the archetype, straight up. And so I would assume, you know, if we're going to get artwork like this, it makes a lot of sense. Also, I even likened them, the way she looked, to the maids, one of the maids in ReZero, the anime, and they're twins. Like, there's 2 maids and there's twins, so this looks perfect. This makes perfect sense. It's probably not a level 4. If it's another really good one, it might actually make the rank, like the Ties of the Brethren level 4 play, like too insane, but we'll see. So yeah, let's just start off with the first archetype I'm looking at here, which is actually Valiants. Really cool archetype. What I love here is that so many of these are actually like really solid extenders. So many of these cards literally just say, if it's in scale, once per turn, you can just special summon this card to the same column it's in. That is just a free special summon. Really, really nice. We know how good that is in pendulums, because when stuff goes to the extra, you're going to use it as pendulum fodder anyway. So it's not even like a 1-for-1. It's almost just like a +1, because you summon one, you summon another, boom, link 2. That could be something like Beyond the Pendulum, which we'll have. Maybe we'll have Electromite later on. Whatever. Verte Anaconda, whatever potential play you might be looking for there. And then you just assemble scales after that point, and then you just pen summon all the monsters you use to link off anyway, and just get even more pluses. So really, really cool. They also have some really cool like mechanics, as well as like if they move zones, some of them get like really cool effects and stuff, which is built into the archetype. But the biggest thing I see here is one, I see 2 big options for Valiants. At least they make the most sense to me. Feel free to let me know if there's any other pendulum stuff. I'm not a pendulum expert at all, but this does fit into my one sweet spot for pendulum. The first thing is pure, right? If you just want to play like a pure Valiant deck, you just play nothing but a ton of Valiant monsters. They're all extenders from hand. You just keep going boom, 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 and then eventually, you know, make a decent board out of all those extenders. Pretty cool. One thing I will say is a lot of the Valiant monsters just end up being extenders and don't like search you anything. This I think is the only searcher, and so for the monsters, and so a lot of them just end up being 1-for-1 cards, which is not always what you're looking for in a pendulum deck. So they do like fitting with other engines that actually plus you really well. Which brings me to my favorite option here, which is absolutely Zephyrs. And this is my sweet spot for pendulums. I'm not a huge pendulum guy, but this is the one pendulum deck I love. I absolutely love it. It's control-based, very cool engine, and it pluses really well. So yeah, the biggest thing here is synergy with Zephyrs. Zephyrs, one, don't need to special summon, except from the extra deck, really. And the whole point of the engine is like you scales a Frath, you send Zephyr new, and all you need is a low scale to then do it, because Zephyr will become a high scale. And then you pen someone else Zephyr new, he gets you access to any of your interruptive traps or anything, and you're off to the races. What's really, really cool about this is all of the Valiant monsters are low scales. Like literally all of them are low scale. So that is perfect to fit with the Zephyr engine. Sometimes playing Zephyr, you have really awkward hands where it's just Sephiroth and you don't open a low scale. And you're literally just like, I can't send Zephyr new. I'm screwed. I can't make any interruption. That doesn't happen in this deck. If you see Sephiroth, you're almost guaranteed to see a low scale. And if you see enough low scales, you can potentially just go like summon a Valiant, summon to the field. summon a second Valiant, summon it to the field. Summons a scales of Wrath, you know, sends it for new, summon the last scale, make a link 2, and then like pen summon 2, maybe even more, depending on like what you ended up doing, and then like you're just kind of popping off. You're just plussing like crazy and setting up multiple interruptions hopefully, and kind of going to town that way, which is really, really cool. I can't wait to see how truly they work out, how some of the combos might work and stuff, because I'm used to playing Zephyrs pretty pure, pretty control based, but this seems like there's going to be a lot more potential combo options available to us, which is really cool, but we'll see. So yeah, Zephyrs definitely the biggest synergy for sure, in my opinion, for Valiants. Next up here, we're going to move to Mr. Roon. This is like the mill kind of engine. It's really weird. You have it's based around the field spell and then all the quick play spells. The field spell lets you like activate all the quick plays from hand, and once per turn, like target any of your Mr. Roon quick plays that are in grave and shuffle or put them on the bottom of the deck and then draw that many cards. So it just lets you keep rotating that engine, potentially drawing 3 every turn, especially once you get the engine going, which is ridiculous. The only drawback is that all the quick play spells, when they do what they do, they then lock you out of your next battle phase. So you don't usually kill your opponent, but all of them also have a bonus effect where they're like, pop a special summon monster, then banish the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. You know, pop a back row, banish 3 off their deck, and so on and so forth. So as a pure deck, it could be an interesting mill strategy. I'm not sure if I fully believe that a mill strategy that seems more control based like this is going to be good enough. Maybe it is. I mean, if you could just control the board with the Mr. Roon spells, then like you can just drag a duel out as long as you need to, because eventually your opponent will deck out, which is cool. I think this would be even more nasty if like Desires was still at 3, because a lot of decks just like to play Desires, and so if your opponent starts the duel with Desires and then you go into your Mr. Roon stuff, they're already like, they only have like less than 25 cards left in deck anyway, and it's just so much easier to deck them out. But still, and it seems really potent, and what I love is that it's like all spells. Really, really cool. So obviously you can play this pure, try to just play a deck out strategy. Not my personal cup of tea, but I know those people are out there, so have at it. That's cool for you. I'm not going to judge you. But what I'm looking at mainly is actually Magical Musketeers. Magical Musketeers are a really interesting archetype where anything any spell or trap that's activated in the same column as a Musketeer you have will trigger them to usually just get you a straight up plus in some way. Caspar's your Searcher. There's one that summons a Musketeer from deck. There's one that like discards to draw 2. There's one that gets you an add back from grave. One that reborns from grave. They're all just like pretty much just good +1s. Plus the deck has an insane Link 1 monster that allows them to go second, as well as in the grind, just completely blow your opponent away with resources. And that's what I'm focused on more than anything here. Mr. Roon, yes, it locks you out of the battle phase, so yes, it can make it so that winning the duel quickly is not as easy as you want. But I do think as an engine that helps you just control the board is like still valuable in and of itself. Plus, the whole thing Magical Musketeers have been looking for this whole time is a really good splashable engine that just gives them the ability to just like have easy spells to activate in their columns, no problem, just to like get their effects to pop off. And this engine does exactly that. And I really, really love that. I think the synergy there, this is like the... Other than the fact that it locks you out of the battle phase, this archetype is almost perfect for how you would write up an archetype to like synergize with Musketeers. An engine that doesn't require monsters at all. It's just all spells, spells that like trigger your Musketeers. They're quick play, so you can fire them on the fly. There's like spell and trap removal, monster removal, and monster negation. So like you've got a lot of bases covered as well. Really, really strong. And then once you get like the field spell in play, you're rotating those and drawing more and more cards. So then once you eventually just completely dominate your opponent in resources, then when you don't need to activate your Mr. Roons anymore and you can just ride the Musketeers home, you can go for game finally. So I'm very curious to trying out a control build like that. I've always liked to play Musketeers in a control way. They always felt more control-y to me. And even when they were like a going second deck, they still were kind of played like control-y. You weren't really trying to OTK. You were trying to go second, play through interruptions, and then eventually out-resource your opponent after breaking through their board. And so it's kind of like Sky Strikers in the way that it was like a going second deck. Like you go second to control the board and then out-resource your opponent. But I'm really excited for this one. I think this synergy is just so good, and I really can't wait to see how good it can actually be. Which takes us to our final archetype here, which is Labyrinth. This one, I'm not going to lie to you, I am the most excited for out of the three, and I am excited for all three. Like, no joke. I actually plan on picking up all three of these archetypes if my wallet will hold up, we'll say. But yeah, this archetype is really cool. They mentioned that it had synergy with the new Lady of Lament card prior to it coming out, and they did not lie. This is a deck that is based around normal traps and fiend monsters, which is pretty much just like Lair of Darkness to a T. If you had told me those two things, I would have told you Lair of Darkness or Trap Burning Abyss or Unchained, which funny enough ends up being the three archetypes that I'm bringing up here. Obviously, the first one I have to mention to you is Lady of Lament, or Lair of Darkness. Better there. The synergy is too good here. Not only is it a fiend deck that works with normal traps, but like there's actual good synergy. Lilith is getting you any trap in the game. That could be the traps for the Labyrinth archetype, right? She's also Fiend and Grave, and some of the cards in the deck actually allow you to straight up reborn any fiend from Grave. I believe that's what the field spell does. Boom, gets this card just back for free. Really strong. Yeah, and there's so many other synergies, right? I believe Alice can even search one of the cards if you want to play like Scarm and stuff. That gets you access to certain things, right? Backcheck, all that stuff. I know it's kind of applicable to the Burning Abyss deck as well, but still, they're available to both decks because of Fiend Griefing and the new trap that lets you like Dryden pop any card and then Foolish Burial any fiend. Really, really solid. The synergy is just, I cannot state it enough. And we don't even have the last card revealed, which could bump up synergies with any of these decks even a little bit more. But Lair definitely has to be first on my list, just because the synergies are just so above and beyond. It really feels like they're almost just like two sides of the same archetype in some ways. So really cool. Next up is Unchained, of course. One thing I will mention is that if you're ever going to try and run these engines together, I don't think you can afford to play like a going second Labyrinth Unchained deck. It has to be like a control strategy, like a going first control deck, not a going second break a board deck, because the Labyrinth stuff is good, but I don't think it's necessarily amazing at breaking boards. And so I think you would need to focus on a more going second heavy strategy, but that's doable, right? That's obviously very doable. So the one thing I worry about with Unchained though is that it doesn't consistently search its trap cards, which is what you would love to do to make the best of it and Labyrinth together. You have to just hope you draw them, and you can recur them once you have access to them with Sarama, but like you can't always get access to them whenever you want, which is kind of a bummer. But there's stuff like Trap Trick, there's other things out there, but the synergy is cool, right? It just feels like they could work together, but there wouldn't be any synergy quite strong enough to really make it worth your while, if that makes enough sense. But who knows? Maybe some people make it work. Good, good on them. Good luck to you. Have at it. And the last thing to bring up here is obviously Burning Abyss. The trap variant, of course, the control variant. It's kind of very different from Unchained, because where I do think there is like actually really good synergy between this deck and Labyrinth, being that like one between Fiend Griefing and the new trap, being able to just like foolish any like Burning Abyss is just so easy, and it's not just Scarm, like maybe you just be playing in the Lair, but now it's Graph, Seer, Farfa as an interruption, like an extra interruption to like pop a card or shuffle a card back from Grave and then get an extra banish, right? So there's like other synergies that are like really, really strong. The problem for me is just any deck that like still wants to put monsters on the field just becomes a little bit awkward with the Burning Abyss engine. And this deck still wants to use its main trap just to bring out your boss monster. And when you do, that boss monster is going to make all the Burning Abysses pop themselves. So it does become a little awkward that way. I know they float, I know they rotate, and maybe it's not as big of a deal as I'm making it out to be here, but I do think it is something worth noting. So there is some really strong synergies, but there are also some anti-synergies as well, and that's always been Burning Abyss, right? It's always had anti-synergy when it comes to combining with other archetypes. It even can be clunky sometimes with Phantom Knights, and that's like the best synergy it's ever had with another archetype. So what are you going to do? Still might be worth at least testing out, but for me, I still think Lair is probably the most interesting build, and this deck can even be played pure as well, especially if we see that the last monster revealed is another like really solid engine card. We'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Obviously, let me know with any of the 3 archetypes. Like I said, is there any other ways you're thinking you might want to try to run the deck? Let me know in the comments section below. But that's it for me. I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff from me down the line. And peace.